The other day, I was thinking about all of the terrible adaptations of books that there are out there, and I wondered, why is it so hard to adapt a book? Aren't you just taking what was written and simply representing it visually? I mean, Netflix did this perfectly with Three Body Problem. Look at how they animated the Sophon. It's awesome! So why does the story itself still suck? Why is this line so anticlimactic?
I would say a person is the ever-changing pattern dancing through the neurons of their brain. If that exists, the person exists. We would, however, have to remove that brain from their skull. It'll be enough for them to rebuild the rest. If they do, we have a man on the inside.
Adapting a book is complicated. It goes so far beyond just representing words visually. There are so many more differences between a book and a film that the audience may not even realize, because a room full of writers have already dealt with it in the writer's room, long before shooting has even begun. So, let's take a trip into a writer's room today and see what the big deal is with adaptations, and why the hell it's so rare that it's done right. And we're going to do that by first doing the reverse. Let's adapt a scene from a show into a book. Based death. This one long take lasted 13 seconds. The whole shot in total comes out to around a minute long. How long would this last in a book? Or more accurately, how many words? Let me break it down for you, Mark. Here's what we gotta describe. 1. Flock stares at Falco's Titan angrily and screams. 2. He flies past Falco and lands on the roof. 3. Hange catches up to him and strikes him with her sword. He blocks it and kicks her back. 4. He flies under Peak, comes out from under her, and throws the Thunder Spear at her. Peak tries to bite him and misses. 5. He aims his remaining Thunder Spear at the ship. That is a lot. If we assume one sentence for every action in this scene, if let's say 10 words, then it will come out to 100 words, give or take. 100. That's like a whole good-sized paragraph for only 13 seconds. If we then assume that the average person, you, takes 1 second to read each word, that clocks it to about a minute and a half. 13 seconds in a film, by that logic, would be about a minute and a half in a book. That is 7 times slower. That kinda sucks. I mean, I don't get to have epic ODM scenes in my book, but you know what I can do? I can use the slowness 7 effect to my advantage and give Yun, Cheng, and Wade an extended flashback lasting 82 pages at the beginning of Death's End to build up their characters for the entire book, especially for Yun's future return. Rather than randomly nominating someone from the Oxford Five to take his place and speedrunning his whole arc with Le Paperboat symbolism, ho 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 ho! Yun is supposed to have no friends. Will has friends. Do you not understand why this isn't gonna work? But how do you capture all that in 82 pages if Flock's death already took 100 words to describe? Simple. You edit mercilessly. In every scene of a film, you often have an establishing shot before you cut to your characters talking. They discuss things back and forth, they take pauses to think, sigh, and mutter, all while they're eating, walking to work, or what have you. But in a book, you gotta cut that all out. Edit mercilessly, bitch. In a book, you get right to the discussion. Minimal pauses and back and forths, straight to the point. Because remember, everything happens slowly in a book. You have no time to waste. Think of it like filming in slow motion. Even a moment of dead air to, say, get the camera in focus leads to seconds or even minutes of footage in the clip. No editor in their right mind would keep said minutes in the final edit unless they were working for Zack Snyder. Figure out what the point of the scene is and get to it.
You think I'm some kind of lowlife, some kind of asshole?
What?
Kind of lawyer guilty people hire, right?
Oh, Jimmy, that's
You
not...
look at me and you see Slippin' Jimmy.
I never said that.
Yeah, but you thought it.
And
editing mercilessly is made easier because
the reader participates. Reading is a cognitively demanding task. You are interpreting the text, decoding the subtext, and imagining the scene in your head to experience the story. Watching is not. You simply sit back and keep your eyes open. In fact, you even have the energy to eat popcorn or doom scroll. When you are reading, you participate in the storytelling and cooperate with the writer to create the story in your own mind, which means you as the writer aren't in this alone. You left some little details out, the reader's got you covered. They'll automatically fill in the gaps for you. Didn't describe the store your characters are strolling through? Your readers will imagine a Walmart or a Target. Didn't describe what your characters are wearing? Your readers will give them some plain tee and jeans, or whatever else they want. This helping hand from the reader allows you to edit mercilessly. That's why you don't have to describe the setting every single time, at least not in detail. In fact, letting them fill these gaps in is a good thing, because it makes the story more personal for them. No one else will fill those gaps the way they did. My imagination for what a Sophon looks like will never be the same as someone else's, and definitely not the same as Netflix's, though they nailed the look. So it feels more personal to me, and I feel more attached to it. When reading Lord of the Rings, you might have a different headcanon voice for Aragorn than I do, if neither of us have watched the movie. I might think he sounds like Keanu Reeves, while you think he sounds like, I don't know, Johnny Depp. But be careful, because as we all know, with great power comes great with great responsibility. Leaving the gap too wide is a common problem amongst rookie writers, so common that we coined a term for it, white room syndrome, where the writer has described nothing about the scene, not the setting, not the actions, not the clothes, sometimes not even the characters involved. So the reader has nothing to imagine. The scene becomes a white room, if you will. How long can their imagination last in there before they get bored? Always make sure that the reader has at least a reminder of who's in the scene, where they're at, and what they're doing before you get to the point. You don't have to describe Hogwarts in every scene, but at least remind them where in Hogwarts they're currently at. Readers also can't imagine what they don't know about. Can you imagine a 4-dimensional bubble which you can step into and enter a 4-dimensional space temporarily? Of course not, you stupid idiot. You don't know the first thing about what 4 dimensions look like. You only know about that funny little cube in a cube shape. Oh my gosh, look, it's spinning! So in Death's End, when the author was writing exactly this, he dedicated a whole page to describing what it looked like and what it didn't. One whole page. Only leave gaps which you are confident the reader can fill in on their own. There's a second half to merciless editing that we haven't talked about yet. Pacing.
Spat all over my phone.
When and where the editor cuts determines the speed and flow of a scene. Except in a novel, there are only words. You can't cut words, can you? Yes, you can, you stupid idiot. You can cut entire sentences. If you've spent enough time in the writing community, especially on frickin' Tumblr, you might have come across this post. If you haven't, TLDR, vary the length of your sentences. Pretty please. But why? The post itself says it creates music. But what does that even mean? Well, when they say music, they're really referring to pacing. And like how an editor cuts up raw footage to create that, a writer cuts up sentences. Short sentences, fast cuts. Long sentences, long takes. They both play a role in the paragraph and make the words flow. Even the script of this video does this. And you may not have even noticed it, because as the saying goes, the best editing is invisible. The flow and pacing worked so well to immerse you in the story that you didn't even realize it was there. That's the goal all writers strive to achieve with their writing. Zooming out a little, hey, back it up, editing also applies to chapters. Deciding when to cut to credits is the same as deciding when to end a chapter. It also applies to books. Deciding when to end a season of TV is the same as deciding when to end books 1, 2, and 3. Such as deciding to cover the entirety of book 1 and both beginnings of book 2 and 3 in 8 episodes. Go back and read your draft. If you get that sense of immersion and the words just slide into your brain, good job. If not, then freaking get good, man. Alright, fine. I'll make a video on editing in the future to help you, I promise. But what do you write in these sentences that you edit? What words do you use to get your point across? In film, you use visuals and audio to tell your story. The sets, costumes, lighting, soundtrack, visuals, and audio effects. And in some cases, animation all work together to bring a story to life. In a novel, you have none of that. You only have words. That's it, words. You have to do the same job just as well using only one tool. This is where prose comes in. Prose is the difference between a story and mere words on a screen. Prose is what you need to create a story with nothing but words. And prose is the hardest part of writing. Personally, anyway. But don't beat yourself up if you struggle with this, because this stuff is hard. It's like trying to hit an epic combo in Smash. Each sentence is a fighting move, and you have to finesse them, time it right, and chain it all together to prepare for the big spike at the end. Just because it's a new sentence doesn't mean it's a new thing. Sentences build on one another, and expand on what came prior whilst carrying the message forward. They pay off the previous sentence and set up to the next one. It's a bunch of tiny Chekhov's guns lined up together to create a firing squad. This line on its own is pretty cool in the show. It's a 6 out of 10 on the epic twist scale, just like Wade in the show. But when you combine it with a whole paragraph, notice how every sentence before emphasized the cold-heartedness of Wade as a person. How it drags out the scene as this man comes up with the most inhumane solution imaginable, eyes glinting with a cold light. Instant 10 out of 10. Words can't describe the pure shock I felt when I first read that. Goddamn. You can never recreate such strong feelings with only one sentence, even if you scour the dictionary for the most emotional combination of words to use. No snowflake is responsible for the avalanche, and no avalanche can be created from a single snowflake, even if that snowflake is the most alpha male snowflake Chad there was. Without your combos, your story doesn't feel like a story, but rather a list of facts and hollow descriptions, kind of like how I broke down Flock's death scene, except that's the final draft. Yikes. On top of that, you also start to sound like you're talking to Siri, where you repeat the topic all over again in every command because Siri treats them as a new command. It's frustrating to write and even more frustrating to read. A lot of the times, the more important bit of your scene is internal, some kind of emotional experience. A film will swell the music, switch to a more dramatic lighting, and do a dolly zoom. But a novel can just get to it, because a novel can travel inwards, into the mind to read their thoughts, the heart to feel their emotions, the bodies to feel physiological changes. A film can never travel inwards to show that Tianming created Cheng Jin like the sun, and how that made him feel when she was or wasn't around. Bro was down bad. Traveling inwards allows you to dig deeper, and reach ever closer to the heart of your characters. It's perhaps the biggest strength novels have over films. Beginner writers often think that traveling inwards is simply a box to tick. Describe characters' emotions and thoughts, check, but it's so much more than that. It also saves you from having to write a lot of dialogue and actions, whereas a film exclusively relies on them to show characters' emotions. Not saving them, though, makes your writing look like this. Yikes. True story, I've struggled with having too much dialogue ever since I started writing, because I didn't understand this difference. I just did what the films did. I patted myself on the back for writing deeply enriching dialogue filled with subtext that peeked into my character's psyche, when instead I could simply travel inwards and show it without the middleman. A film can make your jaw drop with a single cut. A novel can take you through the entire life of a person in one chapter. There are things a novel struggles at that films pull off effortlessly, and vice versa. And far too often do writers and Netflix execs ignore this and force one medium to be another. And they struggle. Hard. That's why adaptations are so damn hard to make. So make life easier for yourself and play to your strengths. Write with your medium, not against it. It might just make the whole process a little bit easier.
1 trillion raised to the 10th power is 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0